Hey, welcome back to my kitchen. My name is Shanae, and today we're going to bake raspberry macaron shells. These are insanely delicious macarons. They're not same old plain shells that we flavor with filling. These shells are actually flavored with freeze-dried raspberries, and they have such an intense flavor. I absolutely love it. But I will be honest with you, this recipe gets consistently 3-star reviews. A lot of people have trouble with it, and that's exactly why I wanted to make a video for you guys so that I can explain everything and give you lots of tips for success. For this recipe, you will need powdered sugar, almond flour, granulated sugar, freeze-dried raspberries, egg whites, cream of tartar, salt, and for the filling, I'm going to use raspberry ganache. I'm not going to be making ganache recipe today, but you can watch my ganache 101 video. I will include the link here, also in the description below. I get a lot of questions on my videos asking where the amount for the ingredients, and I include the recipe link in the description below the video. Click on that and you will be able to print out a written recipe. I do not recommend making the recipe from the video. Instead, I urge you to print out the recipe for the best success. So let's get started. As usual, we'll start with whipping the meringue. And into the mixer, I'm going to add egg whites. And by the way, I'm using liquid egg whites. You can use carton egg whites as long as it doesn't mention not for meringue. And I'm going to slowly start whipping the egg whites, and as soon as it starts becoming foamy, I'm going to add salt and cream of tartar, and then I'll gradually start adding the sugar. While the meringue is whipping, we're gonna prepare the dry ingredients, and this is the step very crucial for success. When making this recipe, a lot of people run into thick batter issue, and to prevent that issue, it's really important to choose the correct freeze-dried fruits. Freeze-dried fruits, they're dry and powdery when it's crushed, but they absorb moisture from the air really quickly. And once that happens, they turn into like kind of gummy powder, and it's not ideal. I do not advise to purchase powdered raspberry. I've tried it and they're just so like kind of weird, gummy. Since they absorb moisture from the air really quick, I recommend opening a fresh package right before making this recipe and crush it right before making the recipe too. I do not recommend using food processor because they can overwork the powder and turn it into kind of mushy thing. So I recommend putting it between the parchment paper or in a Ziploc bag and just roll it with a rolling pin until it's nice and finely crushed. Again, you don't want this crushed freeze-dried fruits sitting out in the open air too much because they will absorb too much moisture and your batter will turn thick, or you will get cracked, soft, wrinkly macarons. Okay, my raspberry is nicely crushed. It's okay to have a little bit bigger chunks. They are seeds and we will be straining them, so don't worry about it. And now we'll combine all of the dry ingredients and sift it together. And by the way, I did update the recipe slightly so that it works for everybody. The big change I made was decrease the almond powder amount. So it's a little lower than my basic recipe. So sift it 3 times and then we'll make the macaroons. So as you can see, we'll have a lot of dry bits in the sifter, which is fine. Up to 2 tablespoons is usually okay to get rid of. And I'm going to sift it one more time and then we'll sift it into the meringue. So my meringue has reached soft peaks, and let me show you what that means. When you swirl the whisk in the meringue and pull it out, the pointy end droops a little bit. That means it's soft peaks. And for this recipe, optionally, you can add a little bit food coloring, the red, to emphasize the pink color, just a little bit. And then whip it until stiff peaks form. Also, be sure to scrape the sides of the bowl, just so there's no white meringue left on the sides. So my meringue is ready. Swirl it around, and if the pointy end stays up, that means it's ready. Another sign is I like to see this sharp ribs in the meringue, and that's a good sign that it's reached really nice and stiff peaks. Now we're going to sift in the dry ingredients and then start macaronage. And if you have small bits, it's okay to leave them out as well, as long as it's just a little bit. And then we'll start mixing. This is where a lot of people come to trouble with thick batter issue. But since we reduced the almond flour amount, and as long as you're using fresh freeze-dried raspberries and crushed it right before you make it, you shouldn't have any problem. And because of the added raspberries into the shell, it's just such a flavorful shell. I eat them on its own without even filling. It's just so good. See, I don't have thick batter issue. It's flowing really nice. Still need to be stirred a little more. Almost ready. So as you can see, the ribbon edges are still there. So we want it to melt back into the batter more and quicker, a little quicker. Batter is ready. So I'm going to transfer it into a piping bag. Twist the top. Let's go ahead and pipe the macarons. You can download my macaron template on my website. I will include the link for the sign up to my email, and then you will receive the templates as a download. And then now we'll just go ahead and tap it on the bottom. And if you need to, use a toothpick to pop any air bubbles. Looking great. And I'm going to dry this macaron shells for about 10 minutes or 10-15 minutes. In a humid climate, it might take a little longer, up to 2 hours, it's normal. And then I'll bake it for 15 to 18 minutes at 300 degrees Fahrenheit. And then we'll come back and we'll fill this macarons. So my first tray is baked and completely cooled. Look how pretty they are. Just look at them. They're beautiful. I love the natural specks from the raspberries, and they just look really pretty and rustic. And I'm going to pair them, and we're going to fill them. And since the macarons are completely cooled, the bottoms are really nice and even. I kind of want to try breaking into one. Check the quality of the macarons. Look how full it is. Beautiful. Now I made my raspberry ganache. I used raspberry chocolate couvertures. I have a recipe. I will put the link in the description below, but it's the same technique as used for white chocolate ganache. As usual, you can pipe it like this, or you can pipe a ring. Now the hard part starts. You have to mature the macarons before serving. I recommend maturing them at least 24 hours, if not 48 hours. Ganache is on the thicker side of filling and requires longer time to mature. Now you can put them in an airtight container and put them in the fridge for up to 48 hours, or you can also dip them in a white chocolate to decorate. I'm going to show that to you right now. And it's optional, of course, but adds a little pizzazz to the macarons. So I have white chocolate couvertures here, and I'm going to melt it in the microwave very gently. My microwave is 1000 watt power, and 1 minute at 50% power, and stir it after every 30 seconds, and then melt it until it's completely melted. So my chocolate is melted. It's beautiful. The reason I choose this deeper bowl is because I want as much chocolate as possible on the bottom so that it's easier to dip the macarons. Halfway is perfect. Shake the excess chocolate off and then place them like so that it dries nicer. It's okay if you put it on the side, totally fine. I just want to keep it perfect like this. So I let the chocolate set a little bit on its side, and then I turn them down so that I can sprinkle some freeze-dried crushed raspberries. By the way, don't dust your macaron shells with freeze-dried raspberry powder before baking, because when they bake, they turn darker. Look at this beauty. Does it look beautiful? I really hope you enjoyed this video. Again, download the recipe from the link in the description below. And if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you next time. Bye.